Hi, everyone. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Tamoya, how you doing?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Pretty good.
By the way, this is our second recording session in the past 3 days or so. Last time we discussed when this lockout will be over. At that time, we had no idea that this was going to happen, but in less than 2 days, they reached a deal. So I was watching Good Morning America on ABC yesterday morning, and they did a segment on when the baseball season would start. And just several hours later, they reached a deal. So how surprised were you when you heard the news that they struck a deal?
Well, I mean, I had figured all along that the most important thing for the two sides was to play the entire 162 game season. So as long as they could still do that, they were going to use every minute they had to get the best deal they could. And basically, we thought, about March 1st was the deadline for really having opening day on March 31st. But the fact that they could reschedule some games, that gave them basically another week to play around with. So it took till March 10th, and they still could play 162 games, including some rescheduling and including having spring training be a couple days shorter than they wanted. But that was really the very last minute that they could have done it. And if they would have not done it when they did, they would have had to lose, 2 weeks of games, and there would have been all kinds of other arguments about the players' salaries and service time, and it would have gotten pretty ugly. So I think both sides really wanted to avoid that. So they realized that they had to do something when they did.
What are some key elements and changes of this new CBA, which will take effect through the 2026 season?
I think the main thing that fans are going to see is different is there's going to be more playoff teams. The playoffs now go to 12 teams, so it's 6 teams in each league. So that obviously is a big deal for the Angels because they've had trouble making the playoffs. They haven't made the playoffs since 2014. Everybody wants to see them in the playoffs with Mike Trout and Ohtani, obviously. So that will certainly help them. The salary structure changed a little bit, so the younger players are going to get paid a little more now. The other things are really not super relevant to fans. It's mostly just about the way the players get paid and the way teams use their payroll, and I don't think fans are going to notice very much difference.
How about the pre-arbitration pool that they were discussing?
Yeah, so basically players that have less than 3 years of service time pretty much get paid about the major league minimum, no matter how good they are. Obviously, that was an issue like with Ohtani when he won the Rookie of the Year, and then the next year he did get paid actually a lot relative to other players of his service time, but it was still nowhere close to what he deserved. So now they have a pool of $50 million that's basically going to be spread among all the best players that have less than 3 years service time to give them extra money. So, for example, Corbin Burns, who won Cy Young last year of the Brewers, or last year he made $575,000 or something like that, and under this system he would have made about $4 million. So that is a big deal for those kind of players, because that's really where the players are underpaid the most, is when they're in their first 3 years.
How about the luxury tax?
Now it's been raised $20 million. It was $210 million last year. It's going to be $230 million this year, and it's going to continue to go up each year, a couple $1 million. So we'll see what difference it makes. I think for most of the teams that weren't even close to that number, it's probably not going to make a difference. And then there's some teams, the Dodgers, the Mets, the Yankees, they just spend whatever they want. It's probably not going to make a big difference for them either. But then there's teams like the Angels that have been kind of on the border of that line. And so now we'll see if they really spend more because the line is higher, or if they were just still going to spend what they were going to spend regardless of where the line is.
In terms of the luxury tax and pre-arbitration pool, do they just take the middle number? It seems like they took the middle figures.
Not exactly the middle, but pretty close, which is why it's kind of silly that it took them so long, because, they could have figured out back in January, the players wanted to be here and the owners wanted to be here. Let's just go in the middle and be done with it. But, they had to fight for every penny, and this is what we got.
How about the defensive shifts and the base size that we were seeing on news headlines?
Yeah, those two things, and also the pitch clock. Those are 3 rules that are going to be changed most likely in 2023. They're going to have a committee of some players and baseball people to talk about whether they're going to do these things officially. But MLB basically has the right now to make the changes if they want to. The players basically gave them that right. So I think the expectation is that in 2023, there's going to have some kind of rule limiting shifts. There's going to be some kind of pitch clock, and the bases are going to be a little bit bigger. And the reason people might not understand, the reason with the bases being bigger is it's supposed to increase stolen bases. It basically shortens up the distance by a little teeny bit between the bases, so it encourages more base stealing. I don't know if that's really going to happen if you take away 2 inches on each side. So it's, instead of 90 feet, it's 89 feet and 8 inches. I don't really think that's going to make a difference, but we'll see.
How will this new CBA affect Ohtani?
Well, I think the most obvious way is that now there's the DH in both leagues. So when the Angels play on the road at National League parks, in the past, if Ohtani wasn't pitching, he couldn't play because there was no DH. So now they're going to have the DH in all those games. So Ohtani will be able to play basically in every single game on the Angels schedule. He could be the DH or the pitcher. So there are no more days like that where he would have had to play a position. So that's the big deal for Ohtani.
Tell us about the schedule through the opening day. What's going to happen now that the lockout is over?
Well, they're going to have a spring training is going to start full go on this coming Monday, which I believe is the 14th. They're going to have guys reporting on the 13th, and they'll have physicals and things like that. But everybody will be on the field on the 14th. And the Angels' first game is on the 18th, which is very quick. Usually they have about 10 days from the start of spring training to when you play games. So it's a very compressed schedule. They're going to play games basically in Arizona from March 18th to April 2nd, play every day except for one off day they have. And then they're going to go back to Southern California. They're going to play the Dodgers April 3rd, 4th, and 5th. They have an off day on April 6th, and then opening day, April 7th, they're going to be home against the Astros.
Are there any concerns that this will affect a player's health and injuries and all that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of people are going to be looking out for that. I think most players don't feel they need the whole normal 6 weeks of spring training, but starting pitchers usually do. So they are definitely going to be not where they're normally are at the beginning of the season. So people are going to have to watch out that they don't push them too hard and risk injury to any of them. I think they're going to allow a little some extra roster spots at the beginning of the season. So teams will have more relief pitchers basically. So those first few weeks of the season, we could be seeing games where the starting pitcher goes 4 innings and then there's 6 relievers finish the game. So it's not going to be great baseball in that sense, but it's what we had to do to get the full season in.
And they're going to reschedule the first 4 series that were canceled, right? Two series.
Yeah, well, the first 2 series are going to need to be rescheduled, and then the next 2 just basically went right back on the schedule where they were originally. So for the Angels, they had a 4-game series in Oakland and a 2-game series in Seattle. We don't know exactly when they're replaying those games yet, but they're going to put 3 games on to the end of the season. So presumably the Angels would play those against the A's because that was a 4-game series. And one other game against the A's, they would just stick into an off day or a doubleheader. And those 2 games against the Mariners, also they could just stick in doubleheaders and other trips to Seattle or off days.
I'm sure the free agent signing is already in full swing now. I saw a news report that Carlos Rodon is off to the Giants, and we still have Freddie Freeman, Carlos Correa, Chris Bryant, Trevor Story, and also Seiya Suzuki from Japan. Who do you think the Angels are going after, and how successful do you think they're going to be?
Well, I'm sure they would have liked to have Carlos Rodon. So that was kind of disappointing for a lot of Angels fans because I think he was the best starting pitcher who was available on the free agent market. So, not getting him, I don't know where they would turn to next. I think the next best option for them is probably to make some trades. The Reds have a few starting pitchers, Luis Castillo, Sonny Gray. They could be trade candidates. Yeah. The A's, Sean Manaea and Chris Bassett are a couple guys that they could be trading. So we'll see what's going to happen. By the time people watch this, all kinds of other things could have happened because it's a very compressed schedule and a lot of teams are very busy trying to do a lot of things in a short time.
How about Ohtani's contract extension?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that time frame wise, it would be this spring, but certainly right now, the Angels have many, many more things that are a higher priority that they have to deal with immediately. So that could be the kind of thing that happens, right around when the season starts or early in the season, or they could just wait until the off season to deal with it.
How likely is it that the Angels are going to offer a contract extension and Ohtani agrees to it this offseason at this point?
You mean before
before the season starts. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think that's going to happen. I just think there's not enough time. I think if we had a normal winter and they could have, been talking about it in January and February, then there would have been a better chance. But now I just think that there's not enough time to do it. I suppose it could happen shortly into the season, in April maybe, but I just wouldn't hold my breath for that just because there's so many other things that have to happen in a short time. And I think at this point, Ohtani probably wants to see how good the Angels are going to be before he decides what he wants to do. I'm sure the Angels would love to keep him, but I think it's probably up to him to decide what he thinks of the Angels' future, to decide if he wants to commit long-term.
What are some key things we should keep an eye on in the next week or so that could happen?
I know that another thing with the Angels that people haven't really talked as much about is their shortstop situation. They don't really have a shortstop, and there are some, Carlos Correa and Trevor Story, some pretty good shortstops available. I think people assume the Angels need to save their money for pitching. So if they're not going to get one of those, what are they going to do with shortstop? That is something that is definitely going to be an interesting question to watch, early in spring training.
What do you think they should do?
They probably should just try to load up on relief pitchers if they can't get any other starters. I mean, I think that the thing with Angels pitching, which I always tell people all the time, is the way their pitching is going to be good is having improvement from the guys they already have, more so than just buying players from elsewhere. Patrick Sandoval, Jose Suarez, they were both pretty good in half seasons basically last year. If those guys are just as good in whole seasons this year, that's a big improvement. Reed Detmers was their top pitching prospect. He came up in a very little bit last year, didn't look that great, but they have high hopes for him. If he becomes, even a mid-rotation type pitcher, that's a big improvement because it's a guy they didn't have last year. Griffin Canning is a guy that used to be a pretty good pitcher. He was, at one point, looked like the Angels' best pitcher parts of 2019 and even the beginning of 2021. Before he got hurt, he actually had a pretty good stretch. So I think people forget about him. He certainly has a chance to not necessarily become an ace, but just if he's a quality starting pitcher, all these things could improve the Angels pitching. And I think that if they're going to be good, it's going to be more likely that it's because of those kind of things happening than because they just picked off a bunch of guys off the free agent market and they hit on all of them.
Well, you're already in Arizona, right? Covering minor league camp. Are you going to stay there now that the training, spring training will start?
Yes.
Okay. Well, have fun out there, and thanks for your time.
All right. Thanks, Tomoyo.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any future videos. You can also watch our past videos from the description below. Hope to see you again next time.